Welcome to Bear Archery's Hunting 101 podcast, where hunters new and old come to learn and find inspiration from stories of hunts gone by. Everyone is welcome to enjoy the outdoor way of life, and there is no better time to start than right now. So let's head into the great outdoors with your host, Dylan Ray.
All right, guys, welcome to Bear Archery's Hunting 101 podcast, as always, presented by our friends over at ScentLok. The thing that sets ScentLok apart from everyone else is their carbon technology for maximum odor absorption, which will essentially buy you more successful time in the field. I'm a huge fan of ScentLok, so go check out their entire line of products that'll keep you covered from the early season all the way to the late season. I've got a good friend of mine, Mr. Shane Mowery, the Bone Maniac. Shane, how are you, man?
Man, I'm doing great, Dylan. How you doing this morning?
Oh, better than I deserve. I know that. I know I'm not. It's not as early for me as it is for you. I know that.
I know. It's like, this could be really, really to my benefit here because the kids will still be asleep. The wife will just be getting them ready for school, and I can slip out and scan the fields here for elk and see what's going on. So it was perfect timing. I had to get a couple cups of coffee in though before we had.
Yeah, that's the difference. I'm already 4 cups in. You're only 2 cups in.
But here.
That's how you do a podcast. That's how you do a podcast. Sit behind the glass and look for elk while you do a podcast. That's how it's done.
Amen. Now, all you folks is listening need to take notes.
Speaking of elk hunt, you and your wife both just had a successful elk hunt, which I'm incredibly excited to hear about. Before we dive into that, let me give a quick thank you to my friends over at Wise Eye Technology. Me and Shane, we both share a common love for Wise Eye. They are, in fact, the best cellular trail cameras you can possibly buy. With game recognition technology, it will give you the most in-depth scouting you will ever get from a trail camera. And my favorite part of it is I don't have to look through 14,000 pictures of does. I only get the bucks I want to see. And then beyond that, it recognizes the antlers and categorizes those bucks so I can go into each folder and look at when that particular buck is showing up. Guys, go check out Wise Eye Technology because they are the best in cellular trail cameras. Shane, so your recent elk hunt, where were you at?
So we get invited over every year to the Cunningham Ranch in Oregon, and it's a town that probably most people knows of. It's over in Pendleton, Oregon, by the famous Pendleton Stampede and the Pendleton Clothing Company. And also my favorite, the Pendleton Whiskey Company that's over there. So it's in that area. The Cunningham Ranch has been around for decades, and they have a huge cattle and sheep ranch, and they have also, when I say huge, they have a huge population of elk that are constantly in competition with their cattle. So they try to get rid of some of those elk that are pretty much eating all the cattle out of the range. So they have just right around 300,000 acres over there, and it is a elk mecca, so to speak. Of course, I would really like to hunt some of the bulls that I see over there. But that's in time. I got to do my part. get rid of some of the cow elk that's over there. Of course, just 1 or 2 tags a year doesn't cut it. But they usually kill anywhere from 150 to 200 elk off of this piece of property every year, and that's really not doing anything substantial to the herd because there's just that many and repopulated with new calves every year. So it's just helping keep the herd down. So anyway, to make a long story short, we head over there and we fill the freezer. The wife was looking to get her first set of ivories for some folks that are here in Idaho, actually, that that make some fine jewelry out of elk ivories, and she was looking to send those over there to have some earrings and what, I don't know, whatever that stuff that women do. You know what I mean? All that stuff that I'm like, I don't even have the eye for that thing. It's like when it comes time to like, presents for the wife and this, I'm like, I should know better after, being married for so long and have 4 kids. It's like, you should know what they like, but it's like, nah, let's go buy a new gun or let's go buy a new bow.
Hey, I made fun of my dad super hard because I don't know, I don't remember what anniversary it was, 32nd, 33rd, something like that. He got my mom an electric leaf blower, and I'm like, Dad, what are you doing, dude? And then this last Valentine's Day, I got my wife a pressure washer. So I'm like, well, crap. Now I'm going right down the same road my dad's going down. I don't know what to do. No, I think it turned out great. She had been talking, I want to wash my own car, and the car wash cost me $12 every time I go through, blah blah blah, and so she was actually pretty excited about the pressure washer. So I think I did pretty good.
Oh yeah, well it's a multi-use tool for the family, so they always come in handy. That's for sure. That's the way to look at it, right?
Yeah, yeah. Now, were the bulls fired up when you were there?
No. In fact, how it all went down is, it's there's just, we're hunting the drainages and hunting pretty much the pasture grounds there, and then this part of Oregon around the Pendleton John Day area, it's pretty much high desert. Very little trees. We're not down in the timber. Yeah, for Gina's, they are some up in the timber, but we wanted to control the population that's really hurting the competition for cattle. So it's kind of like almost too easy because you're seeing hundreds of elk, with a rifle, I should say. And Gina's first one was going to let her shoot with a rifle over in Oregon. So, she got hers, and I think once we left the lodge and got out into the field, walked a couple hundred yards, and then you're like, oh, there's a lot of elk. At that point, pick out what you want. Well, it was one of those things where you're like, we won't ever say that hunting's easy, but we lucked out. It was like from the time we got there, bought her tag, to the time that she had an elk down, it was like an hour and a half. So it was pretty cut and dry for her hunt. She did have to scale some rock face to get into position, which I think that was about the most exciting part. She liked. She's like, man, I didn't know if I was going to be able to scale that in time. So I'm like,
Yeah.
Back there watching it all unfold, and it was pretty exciting. Watching her take her first elk over in Oregon and that, but and it was good freezer meat as well. That's we don't ever go to the market as far as buying meat or anything like that. So mine was a little bit more challenging, I should say, because
you went from one extreme to the other. You were like rifle and then recurve. I mean, you went from one end of the spectrum all the way to the other end of the spectrum.
Well, she loves bow hunting. There's no doubt about it. But crossbows are not a thing they hear pretty much in the PNW, and she's still waiting on her legit. That's been a hot commodity on bear archery for sure. So we just decided, well, we'll get the old Christensen some action, but for her. But yeah, I decided to take the old Super Kodiak out for a walk, and I actually did want to hunt the timber and do some spot and stock for some elk, and I should say everything went pretty easy for me as well, as far as the hunting concern. We went in for one afternoon, and there was a lot of cow calling going on, just mewing everywhere, and the wind was typically in our favor for the most part throughout the hunt, and there was 2 or 3 different watering holes that I wanted to really pay particular attention to. It was because it was still hot. It was still almost 97 degrees the time that we were there. So I knew that water was going to be an issue. Out west here, we haven't had any rain, and well, I'm only 140 miles from Pendleton, so the Cunningham Ranch is fairly close to our ranch here in Idaho. So pretty much dealing with the same type of topographical area. And I think May 27th was when any substantial rainfall, which I'm talking about any more than like a tenth of an inch of rainfall that has happened out here. So dealing with the wildfires, dealing with the smoke, dealing with the dryad conditions. Water's key right now, and anybody that's hunting out here this season, I think, should definitely pick up on that, because water is key at this point. So I had first stock. I was able to locate a group of cows that was bedded down, and I think there was 5 there, if I recall right. Was able to get into position about 40 yards, and I was pretty comfortable shooting one at 40 yards. Because it's like shooting at a 55-gallon lid. So their lungs are pretty big. So I felt like I could just put that old tube blade right in there, and I was thinking, wow, I'm doing pretty good, getting into position. About that time, the wind changed, and you know how the old saying is how's it go? Go downhill in the morning, go uphill in the evenings. That doesn't really always happen here in these drainages. Just the way it is. It's crazy with how the wind can circle. And one of them's nose caught wind of some stinky guy. Actually, I think it was Ethan, because he wasn't wearing his ozonics. So he had his full pack on, and I was like, you got to be kidding me! It's like, there's no way this thing smelled me, The wind was for the most part in my favor, and but it switched there, and because he was kind of flanking me on this, and one of them stood up. I was at full draw, and everything felt good, and I go to release, and my elbow cracks the back of a tree, and I release. I'm about 3/4 draw, and I release. The air flight's looking good. It's looking good. I'm like, I'm going to smack this thing anyway. It gets about 5 feet in front of it. I mean, everything's in line and right behind the shoulder, and the air just petered out. I was like, bloop. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And so I just laughed a little bit, It's like, it's no big deal. I mean, I'm only about an hour in. I'm like, this is good, And actually, I was walking into the water hole. Was where I was wanting to hunt, because I had the Hunt Wise app up, and I'm like, I'm gonna check this out. And of course, Hannah, that's running Hunt Oregon over there, and on the Cunningham Ranch, she showed me there's a couple places here. You go do your thing, After we regrouped there a little bit, and I licked my wound there because I wasn't paying attention on what was going on. Maybe a little bit excitement. I mean, most people are like, it's just a cow, I got a couple comments on that every time you post something. You lost me a cow or whatever. And I'm like, you people just don't understand.
Yeah, you don't get it. You're missing the point.
Yeah, you're missing the point. It's a damaged depot tag, for one, and for two, I got a stick bow. I got something Indians use in my hand, and it's like, you got to be on your A game. A lot of people think that whitetail are like stupid smart when it comes to human odors and things like that, but it's really tough to fool an elk. I mean, it really is. And they get pretty antsy real quick and get out of dodge just as quick as whitetail, from my experience with them too. So it's pretty tough. It's pretty tough when you put all those things, on their turf and try to shoot one. So, but anyway, we head on into the water hole. No more than I'd say 8 to 10 minutes while we're there. But there's cow calls. They're just mewing everywhere. There's a couple of lost calf calls. It's like they're just down in behind us, probably 200 yards, and we're in the timber now. I'm up in the timber. There's some grazing lands, fields, and then they're just everywhere. When I say that these guys are overpopulated with elk, they really are. And really this time of year, the bulls, well, this was week 4 last. Just they're still doing their own thing. They're still bachelored up, and it's not time close, but not time for the rut. I just give it some time. We head down in, got into some cover, and just waited it out. Let a few cull cows out and a few calf cows, and just call here and call there. And about that time, they sound like a herd of domesticated cattle when they walk through the woods. There's no doubt about it. You can tell what's going on, right? So, this is one that's kind of what they call the nursery cow, because she had 4 calves with her. So, yeah. Well, there's just so many calves, and it's really, I can't iterate enough, like just how many elk they have here on the ranch. It's like, really, they could probably, it's like, even with Hannah was saying, it's like they could probably kill 300 a year and still could really maintain a really healthy herd. And there's videos of them showing me like 4,000 and 5,000 head of elk on their property that they just have to haze them. Like Oregon Fish and Wildlife will get in choppers and they'll put on a big thing on this ranch where they just haze the elk off the ranch and push them back into public lands. Like, they really have a problem there. There's no doubt about it. So it's really typical for these cows to have, we've even seen, actually, the one that Gina shot, I think it had 5 or 6. I want to say it was 6. I'll have to go back and look at the film, but she had 6 with her when she shot that one. So, and I won't say that these are like calves. These are, 1.5-year-olds that are like done milking, for the most part. But back to the story is they come in. She comes in and gets down and gets a drink, and I'm like, man, 32 yards, man. I'm still looking at my wound at 40 yards. So I'm like, and here it is like I position ourselves to get me a 20-yard shot. Lo and behold, she comes right into the trail, walking right up. Still the wind's in our favor. Everything's good. And she's like, nah, I don't think I want to go in front of him. I'm going to walk around the other side of the water hole to the furthest distance possible. And that's where I'm going to get a drink. So I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. You want the quickest, most ethical, shot possible. Especially if for me anyway, for using a recurve. I would love to shoot at them within 20 yards all the time. And it's not a confidence factor. It's just like I want to push right through it. And even though I know better, this SK is right around 68 pounds, at 29-inch draw on this thing. So it's moving right. When I chronoed, it was like 218 at 486 grains. So it's moving right along. But it's just one of those things that I like to have them a little bit closer. But anyway, she's there. She's drinking. I pull back. I'm getting ready to release, and then you see the eyeball out of the corner of your eyes, like, after the fact. This is Ethan and I, cameramans, talking, and I go and I feel him. I'm like, all this is happening like within seconds. I feel that I brushed him, and I'm getting ready to my release, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me! Not again, dude. All this was going on And of course, the shot at that time, the shot's already gone. And I'm like, this is going to be bad. And I guess I was just enough, because when I swing and I was shoot the way I shoot, it's like, it's a, I don't know. It's a lot different on I guess than how most people shoot, when I'm shooting. But, I felt him released, felt like it wasn't good, and it smacked her. But it was a little bit farther back. I got her in the liver. And she ran out of there. I don't know. She ran 80 yards as a crow flies. And the whole time, it's like, man, just those thick broadheads are just ridiculous. And I mean, I at that point, I was like, yeah, I hit something pretty bad at that point to have that amount of blood loss that quick. And it blew right through her. But you know, it was entertaining. It wasn't quite as quick as my wife's. But you know, it was a meat hunt, you know, and it's just one of those things where I enjoyed getting out, filling the freezer. And it's something also that the local food bank down here at church puts on, and George Norton runs. And I always process a lot of things, give to them every quarter. I usually give them about 400 pounds of meat every quarter for the community down here in Kamiah. So it's something that, you know, it's a lot more than just, you know, some people say, it's just a cow hunt. It's just this, and, well, you know, you lost me at that. But I think a lot of people realize, like, there's a lot more to it than just, you know, going out here and shooting a cow. There's a lot of things going on. For one, it's helping a ranch. It's a depredation tag. It's also filling the freezer for me and my family of 6. And it's helping, you know, in these type of hunts, it's helping my community as well. And that's what's important to me. And, you know, a lot of people don't really realize that. But, you know, to get to experience something like that on a ranch, they're really inexpensive hunts. I mean, you know, as far as that's concerned. And, you know, a lot of people think that, you know, there's places to go, like Colorado for OTC. You know, $588 for a tag in Oregon, which is, I think, really cheap. That's bull too. I mean, that's just an elk tag. So I think for the most part, Oregon is underrated as far as their elk herds. I think they're sustaining really well. I might not want to say that out loud, but you know, because a lot of people would say, "Oh man, why do you say these things?" You know, these podcasts or you know, all the social media or this or that, it's hurting hunting. I don't think it is. I think it's giving people opportunity to do things that they normally wouldn't have, because they don't know these things. You know, take for instance, guys back east don't know what's going on out here, right? They have no idea. So,
well, and I get messages all the time of people, and you know, there's going to be some haters reach out to me because of what I'm about to say, but you know, people reach out and they're like, dude, if we keep telling people about these hunts, we don't have them anymore. And if we keep, you know what I mean? And I'm like, but you're missing the point. Like, if we don't create new hunters, then we won't have hunting at all anymore. Like, if we don't pass on the way we live, and if we don't pass on, you know, our way of life to future hunters, then there will be none of this anymore. And don't worry about, well, there'll be no more elk for me. Really? You know, there's not, we're not going to kill all the elk overnight. You'll be fine.
No, it's stupidity. That's all it is. It's ignorance within conservation. You know, I mean, look at.
Well, I had one guy. We were sitting there one time, and this one guy said something along those lines, and one of my buddies piped up and said, "Yeah, I'm sure the 12-year-old girl that we took hunting last week is going to take all your elk." And the guy was just like, well, and he's like, "No, that's what you're worried about. You're worried about the 12-year-old girl going to kill all your elk." Really? And the guy was just like, "Well, that's not what I'm talking." And he's like, "That's what you're talking to me about." He's like, "Because I took my 12-year-old niece hunting, and you're talking about how we can't keep taking new people hunting. We can't keep creating new hunters." And he's like, "And you are you're threatened by a 12-year-old. That's what's happening here. And he's like, well, that's not what I. And I'm like,
Oh,
really though? That's what you're so worried about. You know what I mean?
well, and most of those guys that are saying that, they I shouldn't say this online, but or on air, but like they couldn't kill anything if it was in front of them anyway. So it's
Yeah.
that's the whole mentality, and it sucks really. And it's like you would think, because really hunters are the ultimate conservationists that's out there. It's our money that's giving back, and hopefully it's going to
Oh,
the right places. We would like to think it's going to the right places, and really, as long as we keep those stupid activists away from trying to do things. We're facing a couple things here in Oregon and Idaho as well, and Montana's finally got a good governor that wants to stand up for some things, and and my home state over there. But it's like, man, when is this ever going to stop? These animals were put for us here, okay? There's
yeah.
a reason. There's a reason, okay? We're omnivores, right? So it's the way it is. But I don't think we'll ever surpass the ignorance. The only thing we can try to do is educate these people, and hopefully they can see some light. We don't bother them, and they shouldn't bother us. It's just good
Well, and
help.
that's what I do think some good. Before I dive into that, let me say this though. To the guys who are, we can't keep creating new hunters. We're gonna run out of land. We're gonna run out of opportunity. We're gonna run out of deer. We're gonna run out of elk. There were more world records killed last year than I don't know in how long, but there were 10 new world records killed last year.
Yeah.
10 new world records, from black bear to Sitka blacktail to I mean, just the crazy 10 new world records, Pope and Young world records last year. That's insane. And to think that our model of conservation is not working, you're blind. To think that more hunters equal less opportunity and less animals, and oh man, I'm not going to have any more big elk to hunt on the mountain anymore. You're blind, because our conservation model is working and there's bigger animals being produced every year. I mean, 10 world records in a year, that goes to speak for itself. And then to your other point, that's what I try to tell these guys, is COVID did one really good thing, and it made people recognize, wait a second, you mean the grocery store might not always have pork chops? You mean the grocery store might not always have hamburger? You mean you mean there might come a time where I can't run to the grocery store and grab chicken? And all of a sudden I have people reaching out to me saying, Dylan, do you have any deer meat? We haven't been able to get any meat at Walmart in weeks. Dylan, do you have any deer meat? The meat's $9 a pound. And I'm like, wait a second, I thought you didn't like deer meat. But now all of a sudden you ain't got no meat at Walmart and you're fine with deer meat.
Tables turned.
Hold up. It made people realize, wait a second, you mean I can't always rely on the Piggly Wiggly to supply my bacon? And you mean I might have to get boots on the ground and go out and get what I need? And I had people saying, well, a really good friend of mine, they have about 500 acres and they've really done a fantastic job of maintaining the hog population. And they'll get a few hogs on every year and they'll kill them off, and they'll get a few hogs and they'll kill them off, and they really don't have any hogs. And I was down there not too long ago, and I said, hey man, can I go out and shoot a hog? And he said, no, not right now. And I'm like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, do you have any on the property right now? He's like, yeah, we've got some. And I'm like, well, let me go kill them. And he's like, man, based off of COVID, we realized that we might not always be able to go get sausage at the grocery store and bacon at the grocery store. And so now we want to keep a small population of hogs. That way, when things get crazy, we've got not only deer and pheasants and turkey, but we can have some pork too. And I'm like, well, makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think it changed a lot of people's mindset. So, COVID sucks. And, but it's changed a lot of people's mindsets about wild game and getting out there and getting your own food.
Well, I think COVID in general just, put new hunters out there, like you say. I mean, I see it all the time. It's like people that are like, just it's crazy. that you never would have guessed this, and I'm sure you see it too. Is people that they're more of a presence in the hunting industry now than what they ever were. People that were in UFC and boxing and
Yeah.
sports. I don't even mention basketball. I don't even know what basketball is. That's how that's how I feel about basketball. But like just other sports in general, like people that are celebrity status is getting more involved in that. It maybe they can influence people that are on the more, I should say, purple side of things. Help them understand, like, hey, this is what hunting is all about. I mean, it's in your DNA. You just got to reach down
Oh,
a little.
yeah. I mean, look at, dude, the idea of not hunting is relatively young. Not relative, it's really young. In the course of humanity, this idea of I'm not going to hunt and I'm not going to eat meat is really young. Dude, you would have been laughed off the face of the planet if you would have said that 100 years ago. That, well, you're going to starve and die. You're not going to have any food. You're going to wither away and die if you don't hunt and eat. And I mean, yeah, look at these guys. Look at Joe Rogan. Like him, love him, or hate him. Obviously, I completely disagree with some of his beliefs, but he has done more for hunting in the last however many years than maybe anybody, because he was somebody that had such a massive following outside of the hunting industry that took this strong pro hunting stance, and he's created hunter after hunter after hunter, who beforehand would have said, no, I don't hunt. But then you have this guy come along who was already influencing them in some way, and he preaches hunting and tells truth about hunting and sheds light on what hunting is really about, and the pursuit of game and eating wild game. And now all of a sudden you've got these guys, and and what made me think of that was just this morning, I see a guy comment, and on one of his, he posted a picture of some elk and said, I eat elk. And this guy at first was like, dude, that looks disgustingly undone and rare and blah, blah, blah. Well, then by the end of it, the last comment was like, I really want to try this at some point in my life. And I'm like, you can, like, just go out and kill one. And not just as in it's easy, but I'm like, all you've got to do is go out there and put the work in, and you can do it. You can have it. You can have a supply of meat like that. And so, I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. There's guys who you haven't seen hunting before, taking a stance pro hunting.
What is, and I think, if you look at like elk populations now, no, I should, I want to make that clear. Is like there's been some stupid things that's happened, like these pro, wolf activists that want to bring in, like they did here in Idaho in '95, bring in the Canadian wolf. I think we'd have been fine if we'd have just had our native species maybe reintroduced, but now we're back at it after they've killed everything over the past 25 years, to like say, oh, well, we just need only a couple breeding pairs. So, but in general speaking, like throughout, the deer that's around in different areas, the herds, except for a few areas, conservation has put them in populations that are a record book, I mean, so it's good. And for people, to back to your statement, is saying, oh, you're going to take my hunting spot. Well, you tell people, up to a certain percentage, you don't give them your hunting spots. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's okay to like take people out and get them introduced to things, because, I think it's all back to, you educate somebody on the way of life, and they realize, like, hey, not only is shooting archery, therapeutic, I can hunt with it. It's a tool. It's a useful tool. It teaches you a lot of things. We can go down through the list. Discipline, this and that. It teaches people a lot of things. When you're outdoors, you get to step.
Oh, I got a message from a guy not too long ago, and he said, "Hey, Dylan," and I knew who he was. He's a friend of mine, and he said, "Hey, Dylan, I've been listening to your podcast, man, and you've really got me intrigued on hunting and shooting." And first off, I was like, "That's why I do what I do." So if you've ever wondered what the Hunting 101 podcast is about, it's when I receive messages like that. That's what it's about. People who have been taught and inspired and feel to the point that they're ready to take up a bow and arrow. But I got a message from a guy, and started off by saying, hey, what bear bow should I try? And I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. And so I get him lined up with a bear bow, and I think he went with the Species. And, he messaged me a few times like, man, the shooting's going great. This is fun. This is awesome. Been enjoying it. And I'm like, that's good, man. And he messaged me a couple questions about sights or rest or whatever. And I'm like, trying to help him out as much as I can. And now he's to the point where he's fired up for opening season in Missouri on the 15th, which I'll be hitting as well. But he's fired up about actually hunting with it. It went from just this, I got to give it a try, I want to shoot in my backyard, to now he's going out and harvesting his own meat with it. And that's incredible.
Well, it is. It's something that, people need to experience, I think. And I think it's just a matter of time. Like, it all comes in waves, I think. And, we keep pounding the ground with people and getting them to understand it all in due time, I think. I mean, we're always going to have those hurdles with the activists and the do-gooders, or whatever you want to call them. But it's, we don't have too many of them out west here. We have them in the major cities, stuff like that on the coast. But for the most part, I drive around. So if there's not a guy that has a gun strapped on him or in his back glass, he's like, I'm getting a little bit too close to the city. So
that's what one of my boss at Pope and Young is from Oregon, and he talks about all the hunting and all the great opportunities in Oregon, and he says that he's like, most people when they think Oregon, they only think Portland, and Portland does not define who people from Oregon are. He's like, that's not the normal, like that's not that's a small percentage of the rest of the state. And so I really want to get out and try to hunt Oregon. Just hearing him talk about it, man, it's got me kind of fired up. But before we move on, let me give a quick thank you to my friends over at Selway. And I know that you run the Grayling Quiver as well, which is just an awesome quiver. If you're not familiar with the Grayling Quiver, it is a hard plastic hood, and it's got the old Bear Archery logo on it. Just a really cool looking quiver, but it's also purpose built. And Selway makes the finest quivers on planet Earth. Whether you want a rawhide quiver or one of the Grayling quivers, strap on, slide on, bolt on, whatever, they make the finest quivers for recurve and longbows that you can possibly get. So go check out Selway and go check out the Grayling quiver, because not only is it an awesome quiver, but it's branded in gorgeous Bear Archery brand. So go check out Selway Archery, and you can check them out at our friends over at Three Rivers as well. They carry them, and they've carried some different colors in that Grayling quiver. So go check out Three Rivers Archery as well. Now I saw you post, I think it was maybe yesterday, maybe it was this morning, and you said, pack 12 miles in, what's your essentials? And I was like, well, good thing I have you on the podcast and I can ask you what your essentials are. So when you pack in like that, what are your essentials?
TP, man, TP.
That's what I'm talking about. No more. Listen,
No.
I need to get a sponsorship with like Charmin, because I've cut a lot of sleeves off t-shirts before, and if you got Charmin out in the field, you ain't got to waste your t-shirts no more, man. One time,
that must be an Eastern thing. Every time I come out here, one of these guys that come hunt with me from back east, I'm like, where's your t-shirt?
Yeah. No, one time, man, for real though, I was on a duck hunt and I was a teenager, and I got caught without any toilet paper, and the only thing I had on was like $120 merino wool base layer shirt, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I can't do this. And that shirt was never to be seen again.
Man, I tell you, it gets tough out there sometimes.
People, they take it for. I saw one post one time, and it said a couple hours in this, and it had a picture of a blind. After a couple cups of this, and it had a picture of coffee, will result in this, and it had a picture of a t-shirt with sleeves cut off. And I'm like, yes, it will.
A lot of truth to that. There really is. But I mean, I kind of, well, you hear, I got a sick kiddo here today home from school. But
speaking of COVID, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, she doesn't. We've had, I mean, it's a lot of lot of smoke out here. I don't know. It's just her allergies are all flared up and whatnot. But she's fine. She's a maniac. But the essentials for backcountry. I mean, I keep things simple. That was actually on the bear hunt when I was out for elk too. I mean, it's kind of a combo because I have for Idaho, my bull tag, and there's cougar, black bear, everything to fill in that deer season. Everything's all coincide with one another. But when I pack in that far, it's usually a lot of mountain homes, and whatever I can get in, without bringing the mules in or the horses to pack things in. It's I don't know if you want me to go over the essentials, but my essentials are making sure I have enough bare minimum to just live off of for a week or however many days they're there. Now I don't know if it's a military thing or if you just control, but it's like some of the guys that go with me, even the cameraman's like, these guys are just pounding water all the time. And I'm like, you guys really need to ration yourself on what you do. And I think a lot of people, that just comes from inexperience, is not spending enough time out there. Is like,
I can tell you what, I eat my entire 12-pack of Reese's in the first day, always.
I don't bring chocolate with me.
No, I had a guy one time, for real though. I had a guy one time, we were out hunting, and day one, we get done eating, and I have a cup of coffee every night after I get done with dinner, and so I'm sitting there making a cup of coffee, and he pulls out a Reese's, and I'm like, oh, cool, he brought a Reese's for day one. And the next morning we sit out and we're glassing, he pulls out a Reese's. I'm like, huh. And then, a few hours later where he gets another glassing point, he pulls out a Reese's, and I'm like, wow. We get to dinner and he gets done eating, he pulls out a Reese's. I'm like, all right, dude, I got to know how many stinking Reese's you brought with you. And he's like, one of the 94 packs or whatever, like it pulls out a box. And I'm like, what in the world? Dude stayed strapped with Reese's all week long.
No. Unreal. Well, maybe I'll see how he fares there coming that far. That's a just bare minimum for me. And of course on that hunt, and the point I would be making to the essentials is you never know what type of position you're going to be in with your glassing, if you have to run and gun, if you're in a situation where you got to drop a lot of gear and get into position to make the kill. Yes, I say kill, Dylan. I'm not a farmer. I don't harvest
Preach
anything.
on it.
What's that?
I said, preach on it.
Yeah. Well, I won't say the wife's the farmer. I'm not a farmer, so I don't harvest anything. So,
speaking of that, I had somebody ask me, "What do you put in your bino harness?" They're asking me like what kind of items I put in there, and that's what I described to them. You mentioned dropping your pack. Whatever's in my bino harness, I want to keep in there. Is if I drop my pack and something does happen, I've got essentials in there to hunt and to live. So a fire starter. I keep like one of the mini pyro putties in there that I've got a fire starter. An extra little head clip for a light, hat clip for a light or whatever. But to answer the question that I got emailed, that's what I keep in my bino harness. Outside of my binos and my rangefinder, I keep enough in there that if I drop my pack, I've got the bare minimum essentials. So that's how I decide what goes in my bino harness.
But I don't even know where I was going with that.
You're telling me your bare essentials that you take in the backcountry with you.
Well, speaking of that post, which is going to lead to what's going to be coming up next here, just on the social platform of things is it's been crazy the past couple weeks. Well, I'll say past 9 days, because was able to fill 3 tags there relatively quick right after the Oregon hunt. So just a little quick thing, whoever's listening, they'll hear the story before they see everything. Is dropped back to get in position because I spotted a bear that I was like, hey, this isn't a killable position. I think I want to get in here, and I just dropped everything and just a straight beeline run because I knew where he was going. He was going down to the creek for some water, and I was just hoping that he was going to stay on that trail. And we took care of business there, and I actually had the redemption in the hand at that point, but I didn't have my pack. I couldn't pack him out. I couldn't quarter him up. I couldn't do anything. So from where I was to an old logging road that we could get, our old, we have an old beater of a truck that we can get in there, an old Toyota that we can get in there off the road. I'm like, man, I think that thing's going to be about 1.5 miles. I'm like, Ethan, what are we going to do? So luckily it wasn't the biggest bear. I wanted it because the pelt that it had going on there. It's pretty nice color. But and I get excited with bear. I don't know why. I don't know why, but bear's one of my favorite things to shoot, and I think that bear there was number 36 that I was able to take
That's
out here.
awesome, man.
But
Congrats.
it's I said, man, you're gonna have to help me get it on my shoulders. So it was
I
actually.
think I saw a picture of you carrying it out.
It might have been one somebody posted it on one of my partners, but yeah, it was 0.96, almost a mile. I dropped that thing 4 times and I was whipped. I can tell you that. So at 45, I don't want to have to do it too many more times, but I had to go back to get it. So it's one of those things that it's like, well, how bad do you want it? I still want it pretty bad. So I'll do some crazy things. I guess I earned the title. That's where it came from. Just doing those type of things. But
He is the maniac.
it's I don't know.
All right, here's the real question though. You're getting to sit down for dinner. Bear meat or elk meat?
Well, I like bear meat. The wife likes it with doing some she'll make it into sausage and do half and half and make Italian sausage out of it.
Now Bear makes phenomenal sausage. That's if you want to make sausage out of wild game, I don't think there's better meat than bear meat. It's just already got that natural sweetness to it, especially if it's in the fall when it's eaten on berries. It's already got that natural sweetness to it that is good in sausage, and so Bear makes phenomenal sausage. Now, Shane, I do a little thing on here called Cooking 101 from our friends, presented by our friends over at Rebel 6 Rubs, and they make 9 different seasonings or rubs for different wild games, and one of them is sweet bear meat rub. So tell me one of your favorite ways to prepare bear meat, and then I'll tell you my favorite way to prepare bear meat.
Well, and that's something that we do like it. And have everyone I ever shot, we grind it up into sausage, and we do it just like we do pork. I mix it, about 40% pork butt. We put in that and turn it into sausage, and we do everything sage. I don't know. That's just what we like. We're pretty simple when it comes to that. So we put in that, and well, that's some of the best I like. And then we'll do it into pepperoni sticks. To me, that's the best way. We either do them with teriyaki or pepperoni, and I don't know. It's kind of hard to beat. I mean, I think that's the best way. But I mean, you also can do, I think, and bear is very, very similar to domesticated pig as far as I'm concerned. If you prepare it right and mix a little bit in it, I try to take all the bear render off, the fat off of off the meat. This old boy was like, I mean, I had cakes of it. I actually had guys like, hey, you want to sell some of that? I'm like, yeah, $100 a pound. I was just being crazy. And these guys like, I'll take it. And I'm like, no, seriously, man, I'm not selling it.
Yeah.
It's amazing that people go that crazy. I want to cook with bear fat. And I'm like, no, you don't. No. But I mean, I don't know. I just personally don't, but I was like, there's other things to cook with besides bear fat. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of useful tools that you can do with it. But I don't like to cook with it. But that's what we do with them. I will cook the backstrap. I think the backstraps are really good because they're marbly. And I think it's good. They're like the way
Bear backstrap fajitas is my favorite.
it's good. It's really good. We do that a lot with fajitas. I think my wife's 2/3 Mexican, to be honest with you, because of all she likes to do. So.
Hey, fajitas is one of my go-to with wild game.
Mm-hmm.
And here's why. Because I don't want to say this in a way that will contradict the way that I preach about wild game, but you can cook it in a way where people who quote unquote don't like wild game will like it. Because here's the problem. And I'll just be straight up and honest with you. Most people don't like wild game because when they've had it, it's been severely overcooked. And sure, I can't give you a backstrap and have you slice into it and see pink and eat it. You're going to be like, oh, no, that's undercooked deer meat. No way. But what I can do is not overcook it in fajitas, and you'll never know because you're just going to eat it as a fajita, and you won't, bite into it and look and see, oh, there's still some pink in there. And so I think fajitas are so successful in wild game because you can get away with not overcooking it and people don't know it. So then these people who quote unquote have never liked wild game are like, man, that was delicious. And I'm like, yeah, that was deer. It just wasn't severely overcooked and dried out to the point where you don't like it anymore. And it didn't bring out the toughness in it. And they're like, oh, wow, that's incredible. And so that's why I'm such a big proponent of fajitas and wild game. Now, take your bear meat sausage and do a breakfast pizza. That right there is phenomenal. A gravy sauce and cheese and some scrambled eggs and bear sausage on a pizza. Good Lord Almighty. I can get spiritual about that right there.
Well, I believe it. I mean, I think you're making me hungry, but
yeah, it's breakfast time now.
Yeah, well, it is. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's only 7:30 here out here on the PNW, but you're right, man. And I think for wild game to get the best taste out of it. I mean, I don't like shoe leather. Okay, I like my meat medium rare or rare, either or. Just depending on what it is. But you got to have those flavors in there. You cook it all as kind of like people cook hamburgers. Man, they're out there squeezing that thing to death. I'm like, no, you leave that juice in there. What's wrong with you people? But that's the flavor. But
I saw a post one time and it said medium rare is the only way to cook meat. And you could argue with me if you weren't still chewing on your steak over there.
Yeah, because it's you could build a boot out of that thing, but there's a lot of truth to that, and people to come in and visit with us, and we'll cook. I'll cook a cougar backstrap, or we'll make fajitas out of that, or elk or whatever. If my wife will stuff an elk backstrap and they'll say, man, this is the best beef I've ever, this is the best pork, this is the best chicken. And I'm like, dude, you have no idea what you're eating, do you? We actually pissed somebody off one time because we said, wow, this is, after we ate, it's like, this is cougar. I'm like, what'd you expect? We're going to go down here in the market and get some chicken? What are you talking about? No, man, this is cougar. I thought I lost a friend over that one, which been no foul there, but people don't.
No, one time I made some bear fajitas and I gave it to somebody and they were like, oh, that was so good. Mm-hmm. And I'm not gonna lie, how can I say this politically correct? She's dumb, like dumb as a box of rocks, and she hates wild game, like she hates the idea of it. She was the kind of person, and I knew this going into this, she was the kind of person like that would like fight you tooth and nail. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you shoot animals. And so I gave her these fajitas and she ate them all. And she's like, that was delicious. And I'm like, yeah, you just ate bear meat. And she's like, no, I didn't. That was chicken. And I'm like, okay, first off, it was stinking red meat. Like now I don't even think you know what you're.
Yeah,
Anyways, but no, what she mean, dude. She was ready to literally fist fight me, and she still to this day does not believe that she ate bear meat. She will not believe me that she ate bear meat. Another time, I gave her. We smoked meatloaf, and I used venison in the meatloaf, and I told her that, and she still to this day doesn't believe me. And she had other people say it was deer, and she's like, "No, it wasn't. I don't eat deer." And I'm like, "You did, and you loved it." And she's like, "Nope, I don't eat deer. And I'm like, "You are literally dumber than a box of rocks." But no, I recently had a friend over. Dave Curtis, owner of NZ Campers, which, by the way, if you haven't checked out NZ Campers, you absolutely need to, because they are incredible custom-built campers for hunters by hunters, and they have some incredible hunting features built into them. But my friend Dave from NZ was talking about how he challenged himself to 1 year of only eating protein that he raised. And I really thought that was a cool deal. Now they raise chickens, and so they got eggs and chicken as well. But I really thought that was a cool deal. And he's like, not no other reason other than it's challenging, and I wanted to prove to myself that I can live off what I grow and kill in the woods. And I'm like, well, what do you do like if you're traveling? And he's like, well, I just eat a cheese pizza and a salad or something. But as far as meat goes, he challenged himself to a year of only protein that he killed in the field or raised, as far as chickens go. And I really thought that was cool. Because again, in this world we're living in, like, you got to understand it might not be there for long. Your meat resources might not be there too much longer. And then what are you going to do,
Well, now that you brought that up, that's one of the faces or challenges that Oregon's facing is, these morons or activists, whatever those people, whatever you want to call them. I shouldn't be rude, but they're trying to do away with hunting. If they need a certain amount of votes to just get it over to legislative, which I don't think it will, but you never know. There's the people that's locked up in a apartment in Portland or wherever, these big cities are pretty much dictating how farmers and we live. They dictate how we live because of their voices. Meanwhile, we're out here working and doing things that middle America do. They're out here doing these things at 2:00 in the day, like we don't even know about. So it's like our voices are never heard because, for one, we're hardworking Americans that we want to succeed, and we don't have time for nonsense because we're worried about providing for our family. You're getting me off on a tangent here. I get really passionate about these people, but
go on with it.
They're trying to take away our hunting. They're trying to the ranchers, the farmers, saying, well, you can't raise animals for slaughter. They're even trying to do away with pesticides for spraying on fields and things like this. This is some of the stupid stuff that this guy no lost feelings for Bill Gates, where he's trying to do all the synthetic meats. And I mean, you people are about as far away from human as possible. It's like, you guys, if there is a term for aliens, these people are aliens because they don't belong on this planet, for one, because they don't understand anything. They don't understand. It's like, why are you trying to dictate life?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
You can fly to the moon. You got enough money. You fly to the moon. You start your own colony of synthetic meats and, no hunting. And hey, let me see how anorexic you look. You're suffering from some deficiency here. But anyway, and one of them is lack of brain cells. But it's they're trying to pass this the PB13 legislation for all this stuff. And it's like, what gets me, Dylan, is like, now you can spay and neuter, castrate, whatever. You can do all that. That's not inhumane, but you can't kill it. You can't eat it, but you can do, you people are, I don't know. I can't say it nice, so I'm not going to say it all, but those are the challenges that we face, with those type of things, and people don't understand, it's just,
you're absolutely right, man. You're absolutely right. And again, it goes back to that whole thing. That idea of not hunting and not eating meat, that's so young and so unproven. And that's why I love That's why I love TV shows like Alone. I'm like, tell those guys not to hunt. Like, tell them that harvesting meat is wrong, and tell them they have to go out and survive in the woods without harvesting meat. They'll die. Like, they won't. It won't just be like I'm hungry and uncomfortable. They'll die. And it's outrageous to think of not hunting. I mean, hunting and gathering is what literally built our country. And so it's crazy to think, man.
Well, 100%. Back to the loan. I sign up for it every year. I don't know why they don't pick me.
Really?
I do. I'm like, come on, 100 days. I'm like, that would give me 100 days of solitude away from 4 kids. I will win.
I certainly hope that you get picked, man. I'll tell you what, I would watch it and follow it. My buddy Clay Hayes was on it this year.
He's a pro Idahoan. Yeah.
Yeah. From Idaho himself, and he won it. And so I think hunters make great contestants on Alone. The last 3 guys that won it, oh crap, I just drew a blank. Jordan Jonas, Roland, and Clay Hayes all were hunting backgrounds.
Yeah.
And they all won. Why? Because they had stinking meat to eat. They weren't picking stinking wild onions and trying to survive off of berries. They had meat to eat, and they won. Why? Because meat is an essential part of life. You have to have protein and you have to have fats to live. Now, protein and fats come from what? Meat. And so that's why, I mean, again, it's like if you could grab these guys by the head and shake them and be like, you idiots, we have to have meat. So you're okay with somebody else killing your meat, and you're okay with somebody else slaughtering your animals, but you're not okay with doing it yourself. Like, wake up.
How you like that nice $4,000 person you're running around?
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah,
somebody had to kill the leopard that you're wearing on a coat. I mean, but anyways, yeah, we're getting off on tangents now. What's your number one field note that you got for us? Something I can take and put in my back pocket and make myself a better hunter with?
Oh, I don't know. I think that it's the thing that you can ever give somebody is just get out there. That's the thing. If you have the opportunity to get out there and study any type of animal, if you're interested in, is just get out there. Just get out there. Take notes. Take 100 hunters, successful hunters, and not all of us do the exact same thing. Each one of us has our own way of doing things, and I think that's important. And it's also, I think, the best field note that that I can give.
Absolutely. Awesome, man. And that's why you say get out there and just do the research and do the study. And that's why you're doing a podcast from your back porch looking for elk through your binoculars.
I live in a pretty amazing place. I'm surrounded by ranchers. I will never see another house within, probably 3 miles through the binoculars. So I thrive here. The only problem we have this year is everything on my ranch is been hit with EHD. We had all the whitetails. I have 1 fawn run. I have I won't be hunting any bucks here. I had some really nice 130s running around, and that's a tank for this area. They're all dead. I've counted 27 dead whitetail, and I'm not a happy camper.
Oh, man. That sucks.
Waste of good protein there, as we say. But
yeah,
that's the thing. But we're always studying, always have the kids out, learning things. They're, that's usually Maniac 101 here in the evenings, and when they're not in school, we'll learn how to look through the vortex or whatnot and figure things out.
Yeah. Well, guys, before we go, let me give another quick thank you to my friend over at Universal Outdoor Products, Carrie, Wise Eye Technology, which both me and Shane love. They also carry Baku e-bikes, and I can promise you this. My friend Thomas over there at Universal, he will get you the very best deal on either Wise Eye or Baku. You can head back a couple episodes where Thomas was on, and you can get discount codes for Wise Eye 6 a.m. Outdoors and Universal Outdoor products, and Baku bikes. And I'm talking savings up to like $1,000 on Baku. Again, he will get you the best deal you could ever dream of on these products. So go check out universaloutdoorproducts.com because they carry two of my favorite things, Wise Eye and Baku. So go check them out. Shane, thank you so much for coming on, man. I appreciate your time, and can't wait to have you back on after season and talk about all of the bone that you put on the ground.
Bone I'll put on the ground because I really don't care about size with me, but there's no doubt about that.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you for listening. Have a great week. And with seasons kicking off, good luck. And guys, send me your pictures. I love to see your pictures. You can send them to me at thehunting101podcast@gmail.com. I'd love to see your success photos and any tips and tricks you've got for in the field. So, guys, good luck this fall. Thanks for listening. You guys have a great week.